Bien, buenos días. Bueno, un honor inmenso para mí poder presentar a Violeta Bulc, es comisionada europea de transporte, empresaria, política, impulsa un movimiento internacional que se ha denominado ecocivilización y que propone un cambio de paradigma civilizatorio. Por lo que hemos podido leer e investigar un poco de este proyecto, encontramos en él muchas ideas, sentimientos, propuestas que se enlazan perfectamente con el ideario, la obra de José Martí, y precisamente con muchos de los temas que se están abordando en esta conferencia por el equilibrio del mundo. Su ponencia se titula La reinvención de nuestra próxima frontera. Estamos preparados para la ecocivilización. Y bueno, sabemos que hay un problema con el tema de la traducción, pero bueno, ya me comentaba que tenía su presentación en inglés, y bueno, por lo visto muchos de los asistentes a este foro, ¿no? Dominan el inglés, así que yo creo que de todas maneras va a poder desarrollarse con calidad, y que podemos después de su intervención, entre 30 a 40 minutos, vamos a tratar de cumplir con el tiempo, poder hacer un intercambio de preguntas, de opiniones. Así que yo, sin más, le doy la palabra a Violeta.
Muchas gracias, and I will continue in English. English is not my native language, so I will try to do my best to express my thoughts and the thoughts of people that I represent here today. It's been really educational listening to the first two speakers, and it's somehow, I'm grateful to the organizers, because it seems like they've been putting the sequence in a perfect order. So, please, I intend in this 40 minutes, and I will try to speed it up, that we can have some time for a real discussion, to really try to offer my own and the perspective of so many people that I was privileged to engage over the lifetime, I should say. And really tried first to offer our own point of view on the current state of the world. You will see that it will be a good continuation of what you have heard so far. Next, I'd really like to show how megatrends are challenging our future. And I am so glad that I'm here today, because this huge percentage of the world is really not present in a public life in Europe, and wrongly so. I also like to share my dream with you. I am very optimistic in spite of all the challenges that are happening, and I'd like to bring that optimistic point of view to your table for a critical assessment and consideration. And at the end, I would really like to argue that nobody else, but we are the future we are looking for. And my deep, deep commitment to myself and to life is that I am a proud ancestor of the future generations. So let's see how much we can do that together, and where we can unite and continue to walk the path together. Please. So first, the current state of the world, please. I think right now, the gentlemen before me really described well this concept of a VUCA world, which is very volatile, very uncertain. I would even say increasingly complex and ambiguous. And I'm asking all of us, because at the same time, we are seeing these rapid developments in different parts of the world, which for me are the signal of a positive change. because so many parts of the world are awakening and are trying to pass the message that they have to everybody else. Because of that, it's becoming very unpredictable. Because we never really know where the human spirit will lead us. We never really know which sparkle will ignite the masses. And the history is just telling us this story over and over again. That at the right time, at the right moment, in the right place, the right idea can change the world. At the same time, our world is becoming very paradoxical. And I don't know about you, but many times I ask myself, am I insane? Am I the only one who sees the world differently? Am I the only one who sees these lies and the way how we are deceived in public media? Is this really that only me, or why are we not reacting to that? Why are we not raising our voice and tell our own truth? At the same time, this world is very much tangled. And we see that a little change in one part of the world that has a huge economical impact on all others. And if nothing else, COVID proved us how really tangled we all are, how very closely connected our worlds have become, and how easy it is to manipulate because of that. But at the same time, how easy it is to spread the information, because today we are informed all over the world fairly well if we want to see it. So why is that the problem, the world that we currently lead? Because everything around us is set up to ignore these characteristics. Our world is static. Our structures are static. And anything that we would like to change hits this static structure who wants to defend itself. Being corporate structures, being country structures. Look around. Pretty much all countries are organized the same way. And yet, all the global problems that we try to address with this kind of systems that we set up in the, let me say, industrial age, are not finding the right answers to the global challenges. And let me speak about it a little bit deeper. If we take a look, please, the next slide. If we take a look, how did we get to where we were yesterday and where we are today? We can say that especially Western world pushed the rest of the world in the so-called industrial age, where in the last 300 years, technology was the one who was driving every single move in pretty much all the countries around the world, with few really rare exceptions. And this industrial age started to form a particular mindset. On one hand, the only way that it could grow, because the formulas for economical growth that were embedded in industrial mindset needed growth. In order to grow, you needed to persuade every single person to get engaged, to spend the value that she or he created in order to keep pushing for this machine to keep going. And we created specific educational systems that fit to the needs of industrial age. And I would even argue that maybe that was necessary. Maybe that is what humanity needed. But at the same time, I will ask ourselves and all of you, are we able to see the moment where the shift needs to happen? Like the shift happened about 300 years ago. Like our colleague from the United States already mentioned, are we able to recognize the tipping point where we are still able to rejuvenate ourselves and lead the path of a mutual development Or are we reaching the tipping point where we will be just another civilization on the pile of the history? And that's how I was very hopeful where the concept of a society 5.0 came from Japan a couple of years ago. And when I started studying, I realized that even that is very much based on the industrial mindset. However, already put the human-centric approach in the middle of that development. And that really challenged me as a person and the circles of my colleagues and friends to start thinking, what is really the next big change that will have to happen for the planet to survive? Because all of a sudden, it was no longer just a question of my family, my country, my continent, but it was a question of a planet itself, because it seemed like somehow we did not want to acknowledge its boundaries, and we started to overconsume everything that we can, like a lunatics caught in the framework of industrial model. Next slide. And at that time, I was working as a businesswoman and a consultant for the development of innovation ecosystems. And all of a sudden, I realized that corporations itself are caught in that mindset. And the analysis that we started to make with corporate environments showed us that the only one who's not changing are big corporations. The big corporations want to dominate. They want to have hierarchical structures. They want to have everything in control, and they want to continue to call people labor force. But those that were challenging them started to think, wait a minute. I mean, if we want to have any chance in establishing ourselves, we got to start investing in knowledge. And knowledge started to make a change. More people had knowledge, more powerful these middle-sized companies became, and they started to challenge the big corporations. And soon they realized that that's not enough, because that was still trapped in the hierarchical structure. And they started to think, wow, maybe we should move forward and finally understand that humans are very important capital that we are investing in. So the corporations started, companies started to treat human beings as human capital. And innovation started to be the major driving force. But innovation within the established mindset is a very dangerous thing, because you keep pushing for the same mistakes and keep pushing for the same, let's say, order. Until some small companies started to realize that actually we have to start understanding human beings as people and try to understand the relationship we have with life, with our planet, with the nature around us. And we can see that this seed started to grow. And with this kind of level of awareness, all over the world, little positive notes are emerging. Different, I call them eco-living labs, community living labs, that started to practice something beyond what the official corporate framework, in a collaboration with national state leaders, was trying to defend. Because deep inside, and I'm asking you as well, how do you feel? Deep inside, we as humans started to rebel against this overconsumption and endless growth, which was destroying everything we still remember was a characteristic of humanity. And this is very quickly what I feel that is happening right now. And many troubles that we see are actually happening on this by much larger scale of deeper insight relationship with life. If the pre-industrial revolution was very much focused on collective, then an individual was actually part of the collective. You could not really easily break away from what the community was thinking. Later on, industrial industrial age really pushed against that, because if you didn't free the individual spirit, you couldn't sell. You couldn't sell the concept of overconsumption. You couldn't sell the concept of a constantly growing economy. Yeah? But it feels like we started to rebel against that, because it's not really giving us food for our emotional world, for our spiritual world, for who we really are as human beings. And I do believe, and there is also a Marty philosophy at the back, I do believe that we started to walk, we have started walking the path in a search of a balance. And if we take a look at what is happening right now, which was well described before, in a corporate world, you see that the old is fighting back with all the means because they are threatened. Because they know that it's just a matter of time when this big corporate dominance will be rejected, because it's all in consumer hands. If you don't buy, they cannot grow. Our awareness is not quite there yet, because we are yet to figure out how to take care of the social stability and social safety net, as we've heard from the first presenter today. Once we figure that out, we don't need big corporations anymore. Next, please. So, and I believe that the secret lies in the really good balance and understanding, first of all, that we are part of the nature and the laws of nature, and the nature as a big ecosystem within which we exist, and at the same time trying to find a balance again and path back to this planetary awareness and consciousness. So first, the first step in industrial age was to move humanity away from nature. Put it behind the factory walls. Push it back into the little cocoons, not allowing to think and learn from what the nature was teaching us. The second one was alienating human being from another human being, saying, computers are enough, technology is enough, as long as you're connected, you have friends, as long as you're connected, you exist. But we know that that's not true. So that was not enough. That's why the cognitive war started. The cognitive war is saying we need to alienate human beings from themselves to be able to sell the future of industrial age further. And that's where we will see a new concept of the future civilization, which will no longer be based on humanity, has been developed. So, I'm asking yourself, what is your response to that? How do you feel? Where are you in this awareness of development of humanity and the planet itself, please? So, what I can say that at this point, being so much alienated, not only from nature, not from only from each other, but also from ourselves, in the, I would say, modern world, which is slowly covering the whole world, depend on percentage of population that is already in, but it's sort of like a glass ceiling. And what I'm not seeing in that emerging world are values of humanity, care as a basic element of our relationship and what makes us human. And I don't see dreams anymore. What are you dreaming about? Because the dream is followed by thought, and the thought makes a change. Every change starts with a thought. So what are you dreaming about? Please. Let's check what megatrends are offering us. First, this famous climate change story. I'm not going to be too provocative, but I will ask yourself, how many of you have looked at the trends in the last couple of millions of years on the planet Earth? If you take a look, a million-year cycle, you will see that planet Earth has gone through so many different climate change cycles already. Because it's a natural behavior of planet Earth. However, I cannot deny the negative impact that we have on these cycles. We speed them up to the point that we deprived ourselves of capacity to adjust. The nature is okay. The nature needs CO2, and it will grow faster if we don't destroy it further. And it will recover itself, but are we humans capable of doing so? So here it's a big question. Can we not change the propulsion engines and not change the technology per se, but can we drop our overconsumption and change it into something else? And then move into coexistence, which will always take a perspective of a planet at every decision. Another, for me, very provocative thing is poverty. Take a look at the trends of poverty of the last couple of decades, and take a look at the amount of money we spent to address the poverty. The poverty is growing, and the expenditure on trying to address the poverty is growing. Don't you think that something is not right with that? So, are we really using the money to address the poverty? Or are we really using the money to help certain interest parties to deliver their products and services where their interests are? Ask yourself, please. The same I would say for pandemic. Have we failed as humanity? We did, definitely. Such a selected way of addressing the challenges without any serious scientific approach and any serious analytical approach to learn from it, I don't think the world has ever seen. Do we really know what is happening as the post-COVID crisis and what is happening with people? All we see is the growing number of depressed people. What we see is a growing number of suicides. What we see is a growing number of sick people. I'm not claiming that the vaccination is responsible for that, but somebody should ask some tough questions and really get some real answers. And let's take a look at digitalization. Digitalization is a great addition of this industrial age to humanity. We connected ourselves, we started to build serious collaborative groups and communities. And we started to learn from each other in a very fast way, which has never been seen before. But all of a sudden, those that are most influential through the current means of wealth, which is money, they started to dream about technology as a goal and no longer a tool. We started to dream that this humanity, this human being, has done its role, playing its role on planet Earth. We started to dream of so-called transhumanization. Is really that what we want? Is really the human being only 0 and 1? And where is the imagination? Where is the spontaneously? Where is the creativity? We're trying to repress that to serve only a particular mindsets. So, what's next then? The current establishment is offering us the new vision, which is transhumanization. For that, we need enormous amount of concentration of investments in high-tech and in the research and development. For that, corporations can no longer afford that the governments lead. They want to have the first and last word. That's why all these challenges and conflicts that we are seeing, I will dare to propose and ask you how you feel about it, is really the big fight between corporations and states, and corporations try to show us that the states are no longer needed, that they can do their business by far more effectively and in a very more efficient and human sufficient way. Can you imagine the world if this really happens? The purpose of corporation is always to make money on the bottom line, is to satisfy the stakeholders. The purpose of state is always to take care of people and the well-being of people. Are they doing it well or not is a different question. But this is fundamentally different. This is a huge fundamental difference. And if we lose the sovereignty of states, we will be out in the open to become a very easy target of corporate dominance. And I would even argue that transhumanism has a chance, and our civilization and humanity will be extinct. And I'm not trying to fear you. I'm a computer engineer by profession. So it's technology, I love it, but I'm also very much aware about negative externalities that it can bring in the hands of the wrong people. And here, of course, I have to offer you the third way. And my proposition is that there is a way forward for humanity, that there is a chance that we can join our forces and we can imagine again something fresh and new. I call it eco-civilization. I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm provoking you. I'm challenging you. I'm inviting you to dare to dream big and dare to even challenge me and all the groups that are behind on this concept, because only that way we will be able to see the way forward together. So let's take a look a little bit closer. Please, just go ahead. At the extinction of civilizations. We are, especially in the West, we are so self-centric. We will dominate the world. Yeah? But take a look just at the last 50,000 years, and you will see an enormous number of civilizations that existed, and of course, they disappeared. For many of them, we don't even know about anymore. Some we recognize, about few we learn in school. Yeah? And all civilizations have this incredible prosperous rising. They were dominating even for hundreds of years, and then they fail in a matter of a couple of decades. And interesting enough, all of them brought themselves down by themselves. Little bit assisted from a side with the natural cycles, climate change, and similar impacts. So if we take a look at this, favorable conditions, and I'm not going to go into details, this will be available on the webpage so you can take a closer look. But favorable conditions were always related to fertilized land, to new climate conditions, to discovery of new science, new technology, like, you know, the rise of imperialism was fully assisted by the discovery of iron. You know, Western civilization would never rise if there was no iron and the new type of weapons and the new type of technologies that followed after that. If there was no hunger in Europe, we would never go and sail beyond and discover different continents. But this was the only choice, otherwise Europe would die of hunger. So there is always something that drives the rise of a new civilization. And the prosperity is very interesting, is whenever the societies are open, they prosper. Whenever they're connected, they prosper. And for the same reason, they fail, because they are too slow in addressing new conditions that are happening around them. If they, instead of connecting and engaging, they close their borders and they start eliminating those that are willing to negotiate and work war, and they use war as an element of defense and as an element of dominance. And that is when they start to fail. Please. So, just 1 minute about where these comments are coming from, because you need to know. I was born in Yugoslavia, a socialist country that doesn't exist anymore. So that actually still has a very profound impact on the way how I think and the way how I work. I can see the critical points about why Yugoslavia disappeared, why the socialism in Yugoslavia didn't succeed. And before it failed, I went and studied in the United States and worked for 5 years in Silicon Valley. And I was able to experience neo-capitalism in its core, just to decide when my career was going really well that this is not the place where I would like to raise my kids. So I went back to Europe. And I went back, but my country didn't exist anymore, so I came to Slovenia, proud of my new country, no doubt about the conditions for being, society, knowledge and wisdom, and land. Please. So in order to understand a little bit better where this kind of shift could lead, we ask ourselves, okay, so what could be, okay, 40 minutes is over, so I'm going to quickly finish to allow a little bit of a discussion. So we started to ask ourselves, what are the core goals that we might be able to organize our life around? Planet as an ecozone of our galaxy. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that perspective that we are actually so unique in the entire universe that we have a responsibility to protect it and to nurture it and to live with it? Relationship-based value creation, that the relationship between you and I is worth more than relationship between two factories or two buildings or one technology, artificial intelligence, and so on. So if we put that as a basis, care will develop automatically. We want to find a way to balance spiral evolution, which constantly goes, everything in the universe is spiral. And then, of course, constantly take an ecosystem view. Out of that, just quickly, these 4 core goals emerged. Universal right for drinking water.
Por su ponencia, yo creo que ha sido muy interesante.
We ran out of time, but I'm here the whole week, so I'll be happy to discuss this further.
You have time for a couple of questions?
No tenemos tiempo, porque hay otro panel, sorry.
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you, but unfortunately we're running behind the time, so they ask us not to raise questions, so I will be available for a discussion later. Let's finish the session and then I'll be available. Thank you very much for your attention.